All right. So we are here at this Astro Round Table to look at Pisces this season. So this is all about the sign of Pisces and its archetypal components. And then we'll also talk about this specific season for Pisces. The first thing to get into is the element, and it is a water element in Pisces. And the archetype of water includes a lot. And I noticed with this one being the first water sign that I'm doing, I've actually added a couple words. Just a second, we got somebody coming in. So welcome, Tom. We're just getting started, yo, and talking about how Pisces is a water sign. So
Cool, cool.
getting that started and talking about how it is one of the more complex signs I was saying earlier. It's got a lot to it. We think about water and emotions and feelings come to mind pretty easily and quickly. And it's easy to say, emotions and water, those kind of go together pretty simply. The astral world, when people talk about astral travel and the astral realm and all of that, that's also a water component. We think about the astral being kind of like this finer dimension of physicality before things mold into the more earthy dimensions, kind of like we can see on the diagram. I tried to showcase an order of operations to the elements. And then the water is also something that we would equate with the soul. And I hear people ask a lot about what's the difference between the soul and the spirit. And I do kind of file this concept of the soul being very liquidy and watery, whereas the spirit is like that bright light of fire. So there's a component different that I see the spirit being like a ray of light that's like it's infinite and eternal and never ending, like a ray of light off the sun. The watery soul component is that shape shifting, kind of molding, like mirroring component that also has a trail that kind of goes behind on all the lifetimes. When we talk about past lives and the concept then of karma, all of these things have a watery component, which makes it one of those esoteric realms that just runs really deep to go with that fathoming the depths of the water metaphor. And so with karma, you hear about karma being cause and effect. Um, it's kind of like it's wrapped up then in the concept I'm putting there of magnetism. The cause and effect is the back and forth of life that has kind of a mechanics, a physics to it, of inertia, of friction, of all of these things that attract and repel different energies with feelings that we can classify as positive and negative with the emotional realm. So the things that kind of push and pull us around in our life according to our taste and our appetites, that which we, want to go towards and away from. It's also um, in a sense, the flight or flight or fight and all of those things. Memory is also a watery component. I think about the memory being in the water and the emoto exercise with, saying different things and putting an emotional intent over water and looking at the different ways it can crystallize or toxify as far as what the water remembers. So with memory, we have the sense of recall when you remember something and pull it together again, and then to forget, to dissolve. And we're going to see here as the Pisces being the 12th sign, there's a lot in its archetype that specializes in the dissolving aspect of water, the forgetting, the washing away, all of those metaphors. But in general, water contains the potential of all of these themes in some configuration. And those last two, the magnetism and memory of like, we're attracted, and we want to remember the times that feel good maybe and forget the things that are, felt bad or we didn't like the taste of. All of these things factor into our karmic calculations and our karmic disposition, which has our soul trail and memory of what we've condensed and built and molded from the astral and all of that feeling emotional landscape. So water is really deep. Um, Pisces is also of the modality being mutable. it is at the end of a season, and all the mutable signs are about changing. There's something that is going in and out, fluctuating, it's variable, it's adaptive. Um, it's a little bit of, it's got all of the mutable signs are two-bodied in some sense. There's something two about them. And the quality of learning, since it's vacillating and going back and between and like changing into a new season, there's an element of learning that's embodied in anything mutable. And so, in this sense, the two-bodied aspect of Pisces is about there being two worlds, and what we're going to see is the juxtaposition and the blurring of the boundaries between the mundane and the spiritual world, is what Pisces is kind of that thin film between, as we have one grand cycle ending before a new cycle begins. Looking at the symbolism of just the glyph and the symbol Pisces, we can see that it's known for being the fish, but it's actually two fish that are passing or joined in perfectly complemented opposition. And so the fish are, by the nature of the symbol, it's that's what it's supposed to be, two fish, and they're balanced, pulling away from one another. You could look at it like this is like the tail, and the body is this, and so they're cross paths. But it's just that idea of two fish like pulling with an opposite but equal tension from one another. And there's such a something in common with the Greek letter epsilon and the Pisces symbol. You can see there's a lot of similarity going on there, which, eventually evolves into the sense of the letter E. But there was, when I went to Greece, I was kind of taught that there was a lot more symbolism and hidden, almost like a sigil within the lettering of things like this. And so that it's that idea of epsilon being tied with the power of this Piscean glyph really struck me as having some kind of connection. Then we just think about, the constellation that it comes from and the concept of the two fish, tied together, their tails. It looks kind of ironic and funny here. But they're tied together and swimming apart. And it's again the spirit and the mundane world or the 3D world that are, merged but somehow separate. They're joined, but they're balancing one another in the way that they pull with an oppositely taut tension. So that's a lot of the theme of what Pisces is going to offer us. The planets that have some sort of more significant jurisdiction or association for Pisces are as follows. The classical ruler was Jupiter, and Jupiter has that expansive quality of like, enlarging, abundance, reaching out. And in this Piscean emotional inner realm, it's really like that meditative sense of getting bigger on the inside and expansing on the inside, whereas, Sagittarius is like questing into foreign frontiers. This is more invisible internal landscapes and deepening and enriching that sense of meditative tranquility, sitting in the stillness. That's the expansive quality that Jupiter owns in this realm. As Neptune and Uranus and Pluto were out there and found, Neptune is very akin with Pisces. They speak a lot of the same language, dissolving boundaries, the dreaminess, the spiritual idealism. Neptune and Pisces kind of sing the exact same tune in a lot of ways. So it's the more apropos ambassador as far as I can archetypally feel. Just the same way that Jupiter fits a lot more steady and sturdy as its Sagittarian component. I really think those transpersonal planets have got a lot of affinity with signs like, you know, just Pluto and Scorpio, Uranus, and they all have their places. But here, Neptune and Pisces, I could argue, are very much the same thing. It's like the king of Pisces land. The planet that's in detriment that we think of like having the least familiar time in a way is Mercury. Mercury is over there ruling over Virgo, precision and articulations of the practical things. And And so over here, this organ, Mercury, that wants to be intellectual and logical and navigate things in a just, a a way that is clear cut, that it can navigate. It's really muddy and murky and confusing in Pisces land, which is abstract, emotional. So the components of clear communication, clear intellectual conclusions, um, are a little bit more abstract. They become more artistic and poetic, but not the typical sense for Mercury. A planet that is said to do excessively well would be Venus. It's exalted there. It's like being in your best friend's house. And so Venus is a sense of love, appreciation, balance, harmony, beauty. And so it really helps to soften and bring out a lot of the best notes, if you will, in Pisces when it comes to themes like unconditional or selfless love, valuing that which is transcendent and easing sorrow, and that which is just beyond boundaries, just in this like, all loving, all encompassing type of way. It beautifies a realm that can already be led to idealism, but kind of appreciates those finer things and makes those transcendental qualities seem a lot more sensually at play and more accessible, more of the world in some way, more possible. A planet that falls in this zone is arguable to say Mercury. I mean, if anything, it would be Mercury because Mercury is also said to be not only the ruler of Virgo but exalted in Virgo, which means it falls in Pisces. I sometimes argue for Mercury to be exalted more in something like Aquarius, which I think I argued when I did that sign. But just saying, go ahead and saying for argument's sake that Mercury falls in Pisces too should just give a really good implication for the way that Mercury in Pisces is kind of like not the best fit in a classic sense. It will allow the mind to transcend boundaries and explore more imaginative possibilities. But it's going to get it's a rubbing elbows with a zone that is delusions, illusions, things that are unclear, nebulous, ephemeral, phantasmagorical, all of these words that are very misty, wavy. So that component, which you like, it's like your steering wheel. You need to steer through. It's like steering through fog. It's difficult. So Mercury's um, technical prowess, its technique, its articulation, its mechanical nature is kind of at the mercy of the ocean and waves and things it cannot analyze and control to an extent. So that's why we think about this particular planetary apparatus falling in that zone. When we think of the sign Pisces at a level beyond the mundane into the esoteric components, Pluto is going to start to have a rulership there, which extends into the hierarchical. Pluto rules it from both of those levels. And this is where we get some of the occult, esoteric, hidden, magical dimensions of Pisces even more accessible. We're talking about from Pluto, this archetype of the shaman, that deep sense of it's bringing in the plutonic force and control and poise and mastery, all the things that we will talk about when we address Scorpio, and how it sits quite powerfully in this land of Poseidon, this land of the ocean of Pisces, of all of this, that it brings in an ability to control the tempest in a sense from a position of personal power within and a perfect surrender. It's like a universal surrender and transcendence that yields like the miracle magic of life and that perfect poise to be in the right place at the right time with the right service in a selfless capacity. It's immaculate control with immaculate surrender at these levels. And it's what holds the soul secrets of Pisces, of that ability to surrender and atone and let go, with faith in the bigger ocean of things that we, cannot control or even should aspire to. And just how that those forces, those bigger than us, larger than life forces, are in a sense what is at the top, or the biggest the biggest bubble of life, are what are governing things. There is a sense of perfect poise and mastery to uh, the mechanics of the universe and life in general is what that suggests. So it's a broad concept, taking those planets and merging them, and there's a powerful position there that we will get to see soon. I know Pluto just went into Aquarius, so it's really premature to think about Pluto in Pisces. But it is coming in a lot of our lifetimes. The 12th sign is going to equate with the 12th house. So since Pisces is the 12th sign, it's going to govern that zone of everybody's life that's embodied in this 12th department that we all have. This is a part of life that is the unconscious. It's where we talk about our dreams. It's all that psychic phenomena that, mediumship, channeling, anything that is altered state related. It's also that sense of selfless caretaking, philanthropy, charity, doing for others without the concern for self. It is miracles. It's those things we can't explain, those moments that just happen at the right place at the right time that are outside our control, but seem like they're meant just for us. And if you tried to explain it to somebody else, it wouldn't make any sense. It's that phenomena. It's confusion, what's going on. It's also music, that way that, the healing and that music can set you back and make you remember these times and make you cry and release, and the magic of music. And it's also illusion. And this can be in the sense of deception and the sorrow and disillusionment of seeing things we thought were real that are not, the mirage factor. But it can also be just like the idea of like a magic show, or the playfulness of making things glamorous and seem more dressed up, dolled up, beautified, idealized. So it's that dimension of life that is, we all have that dreamy, outside the box, non-reality zone of reality. Some places and some concrete symbols of its jurisdiction are the hospital. Hospitals are Piscean, particularly, and also mental hospitals. When we think of, the people that need help and the caretaking and those zones where we feel lost and confused, where things aren't making sense, etc. Prison is also on that list. It can also be monasteries, in that sense of these places where we go for reprieve or to be alone, whether it's enforced or chosen. It's these getaways, these senses of escaping from reality, the places that symbolize that. It's also a zone that comes through when we talk about the theme of suicide, where we have, energies that are lost and confused, that are losing the sense of self in some way. All of those themes of self-sabotage, self-abandonment, overcome with the disillusioning deception of reality, or a loss of reality, those themes. Adoption, we find that theme. I was talking with someone earlier today about, how all of these themes file under the same Pisces jurisdiction. And so Pisces is a unique sign where if someone just happens to be a Pisces, that means their sun was in Pisces. The sun being a solar figure, it's very common for the father figure in a Pisces by sun, their life to have been absent, or some way. They could, and it ranges from them being adopted to uh father was, worked all the time, was in a hospital, was an alcoholic, or um a- all of these themes applying to a father in that Pisces way. It's also the zone that is the ocean, overseas, lost at sea, in the sea, the unknown, that great big, the the expansiveness of this, the Navy runs in this zone. And I think it's interesting how the water and the ocean is the earthy equivalent of the space, the space that like between planets and stars. It's that the ocean of space, the naval frontier, all of that zone. 12th house themes. The 12th house is where we look at in a zone of life where it is the dissolution of boundaries for the undoing and surrender of that which has been too fixed in order to allow transcendence. So it's this great letting go. When you go to sleep at night every night, you let yourself go. The dream world you dissolve into. It's the altered states. It's the idea of acting where channeling where you're not there, something else comes through, and we're more open to the poetic, the musical, the abstract, the psychic, um, the other side, in whatever sense that may be. In that
Hmm.
each of the 12 zones is a relationship. Um, the 12th one is the relationship with God, spirit, the universe, the omnipotent creator of the universe, whatever the biggest sense of totality and everything is. And it's more of the internal sense of that. It's your internal connection with the omnipresence of the universe. Um, which is similar but different to Sagittarius. When we think they both are Jupiterian, which is our beliefs and philosophies and whatnot. Um, Pisces is that inner attunement to spirit, whereas Jupiter and Sagittarius often leads one into that zone of religious idea, the mental aspect of religion, which is preachers and teachers and gurus and that component. So, but they both have a spiritual side, so to speak, but Pisces is that inner sense of your private connection with God that transcends language. It transcends the boundaries of what religion it is, etc. It's also said to represent secret enemies. I always think that's a funny tagline. That's a classic throwback. But it's the sense of sabotage. Since it's such a not self zone, this unconscious aspect, it's ways and people, others show up that in some way might undermine or from behind the scenes, seem to run against the current of who we are or what we want, and therefore sabotage things. But it's always indicative of ourselves, the way that our own, again, this word here, undoing, a sense of unraveling, undoing, dissolving of self occurs at Pisces, which is why there's a lot of sorrow. It's like as much as there is this imaginative quality of the ideal castle in the sky, the reality, the cold hard facts of reality, always falls flat to what we can imagine. So there's always that sense of disillusionment and sorrow, and we don't ever quite get the carrot on the end of the stick. So there's that sense of sabotage or sorrow that propels us to try again, to change something, to adapt, to refine our goal, and to try again, which is eventually what happens in the spring when the next season comes. But it's all tied into what this 12th zone of unraveling and not self at the end of our cycle is, this unconscious. A little bit more keyword soup just to finish washing through this Piscean baptism would be compassion. Again, that sense of, that the heart, the unconditional love for others, those that are experiencing loss or tragedy or these things, because Pisces is extremely empathetic and sympathetic to that sensitivity. Charity, offering freely and selflessly of the self. Sanctuary, a private retrieve, somewhere to get away from everything privately. Seclusion, the idea of the hermitage, the within, away from. Idealism, castles in the sky, the fantasy, the glamour, the dream, the wouldn't it be nice? Altered states, that is, we can think of like lucid dreaming, we can think of trance channeling, psychic phenomenon, remote viewing, psychedelics, all of the altered states that blur lines and boundaries in these psychic spaces. Escape, that's all forms of escapes, which, addiction is that next thing on the list. So, addiction to blissing out, whether that's through, drugs, alcohol. Alcohol is a big one on this in this watery realm. But it could be food, it can be TV, it can be whatever is this just escaping, it's all of that thing. Fantasy. Uh, that hopefully it's not just me that can feel how similar a lot of these things taste. But the fantasy element is, none of these are good or bad, but you can get lost in the fantasy, but it's also that dream that carries forward a sense of playful creativity. Selflessness on always, that's, oh, how lovely to be selfless, but it's also like not having a clear sense of self, being confused, aloof, or adrift about a clear sense of self with boundary. It just depends. The idea to transcend, to move beyond, very much in the zone. I love that word phantasmagoria. For anyone who doesn't know what it means, it's just the idea that like things, shape shifting and it's this and then it's that. And it's just that's that kaleidoscopic way that everything can become nebulous and confusing and changeable, dissolving. There's definitely an alchemical and a chemistry vibe to Pisces, dissolution, dissolving, all of those qualities. And the last one that's especially magical for this list is atonement, the atonement energy, the idea of like the sacrificial Jesus Christ moment is very Pluto in Pisces miracle magic. And that atonement of like a grand sacrifice that like resets everything and puts it all together as one again is an idea of an at one-ment by dissolving all boundaries of separation that divide things into portions and segments and particulars. Everything is one again, one ocean, one space, one total. And it also has this quality of forgiveness. There's a grand sense of letting go, surrendering, forgiving, melting, all of that, all of these vibes. Pisces, Pisces, Pisces. Um, it is the journey of Pisces is this refining of perspective to relinquish lines of separation. So we're learning to let go, forgive, see everything as one, so that we have more receptive access that can come to dreams, miracle synchronicities, psychic phenomenon, more receptive access to the totality of reality and existence is allowed. We're receptive to it. And it's transcending and moving beyond the undue control mechanisms and activating expanded inner wholeness. So anywhere where we're too locked up or kinked or held on or not forgiving or damaged or remembering something painful, Pisces allows us to forget, remove, undo. It's this undoing agent. It's the undo button of the zodiac in a large sense that's like, you know, a washing over, a washing machine, that activates and allows greater inner expandedness wherever whatever's constricting or inhibiting that inner receptivity. The Piscean archetype and activity is what clears that sense. It's a clearing agent. That ironically is, can be a little muddied or maybe muddied's not the best word. Misty. It's foggy. Muddy, we're going to think of that. Muddy is like the negative end of Scorpio work that you've got to boil through. I think this is more of a fog that has, or a mist that has to be cleared. Thinking about the orientation to times that we find with Pisces energy, um, I rated it as having its highest calling with the past. Pisces is very much this undoing, forgiving of the past. So it reflects. The reflective aspect is high in Pisces. It's reflectively unraveling the past to compassionately undo sorrow. It's aware of these places where the mark has been missed. Pisces tunes in to sins of commission and sins of omission, which is all the things we did that we wish we didn't do, and all the things we didn't do that we really wish we should, and all of the sense of sorrow and the pangs of longing that come with that. There's a sense of reflecting and letting go, forgetting, unraveling, forgiving, showing compassion, holding hands with uh, the paradoxical opposite, all of these things that help to undo and forgive the past by removing boundaries is a chief aim for Pisces. Innocence of the present, what does Pisces do for us? It is passively sensing the present. It's very sensitive to like what's the overall, cumulative vibe of the space, in order to vacillate as tides call. And that's in a sense of whatever's needed in the moment. Pisces likes to respond to what's the biggest what's the need right now. It's able to kind of fluctuate and to vacillate. Um, oops, just a second. I knew that was going to happen because my screen had lost the view that I needed. Oop. Oh, I need to go back one. Bam. All right, and then the last part for the future. Pisces glamorizes the future. It's part of what keeps us going. If there's all of these sad realizations and these moments of disillusionment, and here's, we just had Neptune and Saturn just stepped out of Pisces. We've been and the idea of like the horror show that's sad, the disillusionment. Oh my God, everything's so there's a sense of collective disillusionment about some of the things we put on pedestals right now. Um, it's like when you see that sorrow that you need to undo and wash away, how do you keep going? You have to have a dream, you have to have a vision, you have to have a carrot on the stick for the future. So it's going to glamorize the future with dreamy ideals of fantastic adornment. It's the idea of embellishing and having a mirage, something to move forward to that's going to make things better, that's going to, redeem the mistakes of the past to move beyond them, with new effort, with new desire, with we're chasing the fantasy, so to speak. So again, Pisces orientation is to, forgive and let go and wash away the past, to vacillate for the needs of the present in the most over-encompassing, loving way, so to speak, and to really create and dream forth and imagine a future that's worth reaching forward into, is how it would orient through time. Now let's talk about how it sits at the table. Every sign has a relationship with every other sign at the table. And so this month I'm pretending to be Pisces in a sense and seeing how it relates to the other signs. The biggest relationship, I think, besides a sign is that one that sits opposite the table. And in a sense of opposites, I always say they complement one another, they complete one another, and so they are not at war with one another unless that's how you want it to behave. They culminate one another. They're opposite but equal, and so there's a lot that's actually in common. In fact, just to skip to the bottom, they both comprise what would be called the axis of service. I've donned it, because they both have a sense of how we serve. The service component of Pisces is very much about responding in the moment to whatever's needed in a selfless way. There's no boundary reserve, all of that. It's just, what's needed. And then Virgo's service is that sense of the precision of the job that I can do, how I can hold things together to do the best job that is needed for the qualification at hand. Both of these signs are mutable. They are adaptable. They're quick on their toes. They can adjust and bend. And they're both yin or passive. They're receptive and responsive to the energies that they are dancing with. They kind of balance against that more than initiate. Pisces, as a mutable water sign, it's imaginative, it's sensitive, it's compassionate, and it's releasing. It's just like, letting go in this sense of space of beauty and love and all of that. It's the impetus that's a desire to adjust emotionally in order to soothe sorrow and brighten ideals. When it's functioning, it really helps to lighten the load, caretaking like the nurse who loved me, you're in pain, the nurse by your bedside that's making the discomfort lessened, and to brighten ideals, to like point you towards what you want to look forward to. You're going to get out of here soon, and what do you want to do later, and the bright outlook. So that dreamy fantasy. Virgo is mutable earth, is very practical in contrast to imaginative. It's very analytical in contrast to sensitive. It's very critical as various to compassionate, and is very much about binding, or getting a grip on thing, utilizing it instead of releasing. It also has an impetus to adjust in a mutable fashion, but it's not adjusting emotionally, it's adjusting logistically what's needed at hand in order to improve effectiveness and fine-tune precision. This is the element you want in your nurse, where they know how many milligrams of whatever you need, or how to fine-tune a plan in order to make it more effective. So it's that element of controlling and being precise, rather than the emotional sense of releasing blockages and creating greater flow. There's but Virgo is kind of like bending the conduit to uh, corral the energies in a productive quality. So they work together as two ends of that axis of service. The next relationships to look at, I think, at are next door neighbors. It sits next door to Aquarius and Aries in the sense of the 11th, and then Pisces is the 12th, and Aries is the first. So the 11th, 12th, and first signs. And neighbors don't have anything in common. So they're not the same element, they're not the same modality. All they are is they're related in that it's a stage of process that is cascading. And so Aquarius is an energy that Pisces is familiar because it's just come out of that. And then it is itself. And then it's going to eventually become Aries energy. So thinking about this progression, and this is a cycle that repeats itself ad infinitum in life, but at the Aquarius point prior in fixed air, and you'll hear a little splash of Capricorn. Each one of these has a splash of the one before it becomes, but it's coming an Aquarius from a position at the top of one's personal attainment back in Capricorn. Aquarius then is where we have innovative ideas for collective elevation, sparked into connected collaboration through a bigger network of other progressive humanitarians, where inventive new techniques are experimented with to circulate new approaches for advanced liberation from worn out problems. So back in Aquarius, we were electrically charged, we were networked, collective, we were working on a group endeavor, a big group project to uplift community this, experimenting with advancement on a progressive, wide scale collective nature. Right? That was what Aquarius was. Then it becomes this Pisces mutable water quality, where we come from that Aquarian communal effort for progressing liberative fulfillment we were just at, to this point where we need a compassionate release of ego structures that allows space to soothe the soul towards greater surrender. It's this like, it's a deep sigh. It's a letting go after you've pushed the project as far as you can. There's a letting go. And it's a dissolving of boundaries of separation for atonement. Anywhere you can pass the blame to this organization or this section of your organization, or wherever there was, boundaries, this our team versus this team, or all of these, it's like everybody getting along at the end of the day, and it washes into a state of atonement. We're all one, it's all forgiven, it's all one universe, while reflectively imagining into the dreams of what one would like to do or not do differently in the next cycle. So from this, grand effort of Aquarius, there's this letting go. Um, and that letting go is essentially what the Pisces vibe is about, how to let go gracefully, soothingly, and with that purpose. And it's from the letting go that we envision where we're going, which is Aries, next in spring for the cardinal fire. From the conclusive emptying of astral debris at the end of a total process, the end of winter, at the end of the year, at the end of a large karmic cycle, at the end of Pisces, we've emptied the karmic trash bag of astral debris. It's been washed and refreshed, and we have a fresh initiative to boldly pioneer into something new that arises, propelling one to take bold action towards the satiation of a raw, instinctual desire. We might not know why we want what we want at the Aries stage, but we have a raw, like, whoa, I want to off to the races, go do that. It's that fierce, instinctual, burning desire born from a drive to invigorate a sense of independently unbridled identity. It's just the sense to go be and do for the sake of being alive. And Aries is freshly charged with a direction that's the direct response to whatever was emptied in Pisces. Whatever we let go of, wherever we washed things away to, is where we next start with that bold sense of whatever gets us going. So that's how the neighbors are all working together next door. They're rubbing elbows with remembering where they've been and getting ready for where they're going. These next relationships I call the awkward ones. They're awkward ducks, the quincunxes, which, when working together, complete a yod, which is the finger of God. And so there's something magical about these relationships when they triangulate. But in and of themselves, the signs Leo and Libra are not at any clear angle. They're at a 150 angle, which is a quincunx. So if you look, Pisces is here, it's opposite Virgo, but just before and after Virgo, Leo and Libra, they make an awkward angle with Pisces. And they don't have anything in common either. But unlike the neighbors, at least your neighbors, you know who they are because they're next to you. These awkward voices that are all the way across the table, but not sitting like a mirror completing you right across, they're not the same element. They're not the same modality. They don't make a lot of sense with whatever sign is forming that relationship. However, those two, if they're all activated together, the two across the table form a platform that points towards that key sign as a release point, which Pisces would be in this case. But just for a second, consider Pisces against each one of these others, and see how it's so different. Pisces is mutable water, so it's private. It's about divine sanctuary. It's behind the scenes, selfless charity. It sees its sense of taking in, its way that it is invigorated and nourished as releasing all distinctions of separation and ego. It's releasing these things. Um, Leo and Libra are both, just to say a little something, they're both front of house personalities. There's nothing behind the scenes about either of them. So Leo is fixed fire. It's gonna show off. It wants to perform. It wants the spotlight. It's all about its creative talent, what it can do, its sense of ego. Ego's huge for Leo. Taking in for it is promoting a sense of self-importance, specialness, and aggrandizement. So Leo's got this big, bright, shiny front of house personality. Libra, cardinal air, it's all about initiating partnerships. It's the social environment. It's going off to the social soiree and parties. It's all about beautification. Appearances matter, wanting to doll up, wanting to look beautiful. It's got that superficiality. It sees taking in as being pleasantly interacting through interpersonal initiations for harmonic partnership. So it's all about that sense of interacting with a purpose of partnering, not stepping into the background. But if you can think about how both Leo and Libra, they're good friends. But if you think about how Leo or Libra, they're both so much different than Pisces. They're showing off, they're out in the public, they're all these things where Pisces is like this mysterious, secretive, psychic, sensitive, all of this. However, if there is an activation in a chart with Leo and Libra creating a sextile that is opposite a point that is connected in Pisces, that sextile represents a really strong foundation for the spotlight and managing the social sphere of all of those front of house qualities that really allows one to do an excellent, just excellent. I don't know what other word I'm trying to pull out, but an excellent job releasing distinctions of separation and ego. It's like they're able to stand out front with a big shiny appearance to get the attention on whatever it is that really compassionately matters behind the scene. And even though they can shine a really bright, attractive, radiant appearance, it's not about themselves. It's not about their ego. It's done with a very immaculately selfless quality behind it. When you get that combination all together, it perfects some real magic for Pisces that releases at an apex that is just more pronounced, more refined, more focused. But when someone just has like a Pisces Leo connection or a Pisces Libra connection, those energies are not talking any of the same language across the table in a one-on-one relationship. It really takes all three to really hit the note in that respect. Some easier allies, and some really good buddies for Pisces, I say. Pisces is sextile both Taurus and Capricorn. So two doors down, once you pass the direct neighbors, two doors down, those are some easy conversations. Earth and water get along pretty easy. Earth and water are yin passive. They like to make things calm, stable. Let's get things settled. You put a rock on the table, it's going to stay. You fill a cup full of water, it's going to fill its space as far as it can, it's going to sit there. So there's a stabilizing quality to the earth and the water. Pisces is mutable water. It's this transcendental release that softens the suffering from any unavoidable burdens, refining a better vision from any cold, hard realities existent. So with Pisces, it's this release, it softens, it's the letting go that kind of gives us a little bit of fantasy and glamour to move beyond the cold, hard, sufferings and sorrows. It's that. And you can think about, we do file homelessness in Pisces, as well as like movie star magic. But the idea of like the lost or starving artist complex or the lost drifter adrift, all of that quality of Pisces, I always think it's so interesting that its good buddies have it all held together. And it really represents how the practical earthy side, when they're holding hands, can really help to give those castles in the sky a little bit of brick and mortar. Capricorn is a cardinal earth sign. It's that persistent climb towards graduation by overcoming obstacles and enduring through setbacks to achieve mastery and timeless success and societal fame and remembrance. It's the boss. It's the steady goal. It's the purpose. It's why you're doing what you're doing. So when there's a strong sense of achievement and like I've got milestones and markers that I want to hit, there's things I want to achieve and succeed. It gives the fantasy and the carrot on the stick of the Pisces dream somewhere to actually put its boots down. It gives it something to do to achieve, and it can hold a sense of space like a mentor or a boss or a father figure, so to speak, for Pisces. It's that sense of someone older or mature or an energy that's got your back and is keeping you on track is how Capricorn buddies up to Pisces. Taurus, similar, fixed Earth, it's got things together and it represents fortified security that sustains self through development of resources and abilities one can reliably hold on to for steady value and worthwhile appreciation. And so Taurus is that sense of like a savings account. It's the sense of, I might have all these dreams and I want to be a musician or a rock star. But it's like I've got I've got a job. I've got um my resources. I've got tangible skills in the world. I've got the steadiness. It's also that idea of like foundations in reality, a sense of staying grounded at the root that helps one to fly their kite more in the musical, imaginative, abstract landscape. You got to have something steady on the ground, and then Capricorn gives you something to climb up to. And that balances with Pisces in the middle there as this dreamy sense of what do I need to let go of and what is worth reaching forward to. So they all hold hands really easy. Couple more challenging situations that are more dynamic and in your face than those awkward quincunxes would be the stimulating challengers that square off. The signs square to Pisces are Sag and Gemini. So when signs are square, it's like they have a Martian relationship, like war. They butt heads a lot and they see each other. They stimulate and catalyze one another, but they're definitely dynamic relationships you don't miss. They are speaking the same modality, so they're all changeable. They're all willing to adjust and see things multiple ways, but they're different elements. So their reasoning and their philosophy for making changes and adjustment is all coming from a different elemental fundamental department. So Pisces mutable water is an ever-changing emotional state place. It's all about the ever-changing emotional responses, and it's what magnetizes one towards a variety of diffused endeavors for nebulous reasons of compassionate compulsion and sympathetic resonance. So in Pisces lands, it's the emotions being all over the place that call one and magnetize and push and pull towards I want to do this, or this person needs me, or I really feel like I should be here for reasons they don't always understand, but they come from a compassionate feeling heart place that's just sympathetically trying to balance out whatever the ocean's resonance is calling. That's how Pisces is just moving and bouncing and magnetized all over the place. They're selflessly spreading themselves, imaginatively towards whatever's calling. And so they emotionally adjust. Sagittarius is mutable fire. It's ever-changing desires. It's not the responsivity to other things that are fluctuating the emotions. It's, I want to do this. I want to do that. It's shooting a million arrows in the sky. I want to aim, I want to do that. I want to do this. It's the different aims sparked broadly, far and wide in every realm that's discovered and shooting off on quest towards typically out of range, far out, far off type of information. I want to learn, I want to expand philosophy, religion, worldview from far away places of diverse themes, the diversity, the foreign frontier. So Sagittarius is that desire that keeps it adjusting and moving and shifting all over the place. Gemini, mutable air, is the opinionation station. It's ever changing perspectives and opinions. The way the Gemini can argue both sides of any argument forever is because it can see every perspective and every opinion and then cut them all in two and see how they're of two mind and then cut them. So it's just all of the flurry of possibilities and information and perspectives that are the more that you can fetter it out, the more navigating avenues for those ideas exist to explore a plethora of variety. It's just about expanding variety more and more with an aptitude for versatility. The more that I see and the more that I split the hairs and the more that the devil's advocate, the more that I can see both ways, the more possible it is to take more perspectives, more stances, more ways to think about it, more tables to sit at. Gemini is diverse. It can sit at lots of tables because it sees things lots of different ways. It's
Okay.
not, it's, yes. Would you say? Thought I heard that. I thought I heard keyword. Um, Communicate. It's about communicating for the mere sake of information. It's not even assigning any judgments in Gemini land about if it's right or wrong. It's like, how can it be used? What could it mean? Where does it come from? It's circulating it for the learning and the commerce. There's a sense of Gemini kind of having fun as the trickster with finding out and navigating what information is more or less worth something or of value in different situations? How do you commodify the information to get around? Where does it get certain information gets you more places in in certain circles at more tables. So there's that sense of expanding and diversifying the navigation landscape where Gemini just wants to add more to the mix, so to speak. So they all go about this idea of versatility and mutability different, whether it's coming from an emotional place with Pisces, a fiery desire place with Sagittarius, or just a mental intellectual stimulation place through Gemini. The last relationships at the table are probably some of Pisces' best friends. They're the water buddies. Nothing sees you quite like yourself, like another sign of the same element. And so Cancer and Scorpio really work with triangulating well with Pisces because water in general, they're all sensitive, emotional. There's the irrational quality, which I don't, sometimes irrational sounds like a bad word. It just means that, it's not coming from a place of logic. It is coming from that inner invisible imaginative place that is often accurate in its own ways a lot, but it's irrational. It's impressionable. Water is very impressionable. It responds to the impressions. It moves according to what you press into it. Just like the Earth, but much quicker. Doesn't yield as quickly. It's abstract. And then when we talk about hot, cold, dry, wet, it is cool and wet and waterland all across the waterboard. Pisces is the mutable water. So they're all water is emotional soul. Pisces is mutable. Here we have the emotional soul learning of the zodiac taking place. We learn in Pisces where we have held on to something wrong or not the best, not forgiving ourselves or others, and keeping the karmic sink clogged, so to speak. So it's how we learn to let go and relinquish our ego's desires. We empty it out, adapting so as to release all sources of sorrow. When they say that suffering and sorrow are the result of desire, something to be said about that. So it's like the letting go, it's the forgetting, it's all the places that we've held on to something that have kept us in a knot. We let go. We learn to let go through the grace of understanding a bigger picture karmically. It's a sense of just things being bigger than us, the abstracting us, the all of that. So we learn to let go. Cancer, cardinal water. It's emotional soul action. Cancer, that snappy crab, is where we take emotional action. We're most prone to get going and start something from an emotional impetus. Because it's that infancy where you need to, you've got to respond quick because we want to eat and stay alive. It's the action needed to nurture and feed one's sense of soul safety, which is, to eat and not be eaten, in a certain sense, so that one has protective boundaries to keep out threats and bring in nourishment. So, cancer is where we sensitively feel out what feels safe, to eat and take a bite of, to have more. It's going to make us feel good and grow and nurture. And what does not feel safe to stay away from, to keep outside, to shield, to guard. So it's the emotional action that we take on a soul level. And then the Scorpio fixed water sense of us is the emotional soul security. I love it. I love the soul security. It is the sense of the investments and exchanges engaged in order to hold onto a deeper sense of involved business with life in a manner that transcends limitations and endures crises. So Scorpio is that sense where we get emotionally invested, we get deeper into our relationships, into our partners, into others in a way that we hold on to things together. We split the task. We work together in business, to really weather things that get hard, or to really push through our limitations, or to grow beyond what we can do individually. So it's that sense of like deepening and enriching through more involved engagement that is an emotional soul sense of building security in Scorpio. But all three of them are just very magnetically attuned, and there's a sense of being just supportively aligned in that triad. All righty. So now that we have talked about who and what this Pisces archetype energy character theme is, we are right here on its doorstep. The first day of Pisces is just around the corner, and it'll start in February 18th, right after the solar eclipse on the 17th. And just for fun facts now, the solar eclipse on the 17th will activate at 28 degrees Aquarius. So that's where it's happening. And the eclipses are just special new moons and full moons that happen very close to the north and south nodes of the moon. And so when it's the full moon, or I'm sorry, the new moon that's happening the closest to this north node in Pisces, that brings it about, or that, signifies it. But thinking about this eclipse happening at 28 degrees, the loudest conversation this eclipse just will have had is it's squaring a 27.5 degree Uranus. I don't know what happens on the solar eclipse, but the idea of suddenness and radical and surprises and just the Uranian aha vibe is high on that date. And then we get bam, we're right into Pisces season. Here we can see Sun is at 0 Pisces on the 18th. um, the moon will have gone forward into Pisces. Moon and I'm sorry, I already said moon. Venus and Mercury and the North Node are also still in Pisces. So we've got quite a Pisces party starting it off too. And the Venus and Mercury are also trine Jupiter as this happens. If you see, Venus is at 10, Mercury is at 18. I'm not counting the moon in any of this because it moves so much. But yes, on the 18th, the moon will be in this little sweet spot. And they're all talking nice to Jupiter. That's something lovely. Um, there's something about this eclipse and the fact that the sun is the spotlight. It's like, it's a particularly poignant spotlight now moment, with this Uranian flair of surprise and revelation and aha, whatnot. I wouldn't be surprised if there is some sense of like something communicated or just a lot of pleasant information, a sense of pleasantness and dreaminess, and just like it's got a feel good moment here at the beginning of the season. Venus is exalted, like we talked about in Pisces. So this idea of like really having a taste, we really have a taste for this abstract realm. We've really got our sense of transcendent love in the right place with this Venus. However, comma, Mercury is in its fall in Pisces in this place. And so the idea of logically having a clear, analytical, articulate sense of truth at this time, it doesn't seem as favored. It's kind of like rose-colored glasses. I definitely think, I mean, things could look good, feel good, seem good. Rose-colored glasses, though. There's something that like is, we're giving a lot of allowance or something just like ooh la la, glamorous, poetic, musical, all of that. But perhaps not exactly clear. And there's always when you're talking about Pisces stuff, it's heightened potentialities for deception or, not seeing things clear. However, it is easygoing ease. Venus and Jupiter together, especially as they tighten, it does look to be some kind of nice moment. It's like even if we're getting sold a lie or a half truth or something is not quite as good as it looks, tastes, seems, feels, or whatever, however it popped out of the bag that might just seem perfect. It will look and feel rather easygoing right now. And there's an openness to the future and a sense of positivity for planning. I mean, Mercury and Jupiter together sing a song of um, planning for the future, learning, growing, expanding with that. But again, it's happening in a very watery realm. So we'll have to watch how that is. The sun and sun and square Uranus is finishings, which is what that eclipse was signifying back then. So there's that sense of something radical and surprising in this mix, and its revelation concluding, while the Mars square Uranus is just starting. And so it's almost like from something that is shown or revealed or a sudden aha, that we might feel really good and dreamy about where we're going with it. There's a sense of like a sudden change of direction coming of what we're gonna do or what, how we're gonna make moves next with Mars getting ready to square Uranus. Into that second week, Mercury and Venus are still super friendly, if not even friendlier. They're getting tighter. Mercury conjunct Venus is just real pleasant. It's a real pleasant conversation. With Mercury being in this omissive zone of Pisces, we could be having like more superficial where like we want to stay loving, so we're avoiding or trying to escape from hard conversations or really logical conclusions or saying things logically. We want to keep things kind of nebulous, confused, dreamy, ideal in some way. It's kind of like not saying things fully, wanting to cast the best light or somehow. But there's a lot of like easy, friendly communication and beautified ideals with these two so close that are glowing in their trine with Jupiter. So again, it's just this week, this is the 25th of February. It's just looking and feeling really nice. It's almost like being wined and dined emotionally so much in some way that you might miss the fine print about what's really going on or what you're actually being sold. It just feels so good. So we'll see. And we're going to factor in Mercury is stationing to retrograde. So I think there's something about like, bam, a revelation and like, and there's something revealed or something new and we feel really good about it. And it's like we're in a daze and we're just kind of going along toward it and it feels good. And oh yeah, it's dreamy, but Mercury in this zone where it's not the best leader is slowing down to retrograde. We are about to have a retrograde Mercury in Pisces. So he's already not doing good with forward motion, particularly, but something he steps in this forward feel good planning motion has got to go backwards in a bit. It's like, got to review. Wait, what did I say yes to? Wait, what just happened? Wait, where are we going? So he's feeling good in days, but the mind has got to do some intellectual review work in a minute. Sun is approaching a trine while on the north node. So the sun is getting ready to have its glowing moment of growth and progress with Jupiter. And it's on the sense of the North Node, which is giving it a lot of, I feel like the North Node gives the planet a lot of yes factor for doing itself. It's where we should go at this time, which is that Pisces sense. And I feel like kind of the joke in a sense is that Mercury and all these feel good, like, yeah, we have a revelation or revolution or something new from this eclipse that's, shining, and we're moving forward in this glamorous way. But the moving back is like the excitement of moving forward is gonna require some kind of release or letting go of something to revisit in the past. So the idea of moving forward requires moving backward or looking back in the past. There's a need to reflect and look back at the past somehow to get clear and move forward again. So that's somehow in this thematic mix. We also see the Mars square Uranus is peaking this week. And that's just the sense of like having a bee in your bonnet to do something. It's feeling trigger happy in the sense of like you can't sit still, you want to do something, and it does have a revolutionary like energy of rebelling or not sitting still, not gonna take it, got to take action, got to try something new. So who knows what it is that's also this review and this it's almost like it's like if we were in a daze moving forward and then we got a review. Wait, hold up, what? Something about this process that's leading to a review also has a radical action component attached to it, taking a radical, surprising action with the Mars square at this point in the story. It's all a story. Into the third week, we're getting to the beginning of March, and that square has finished or is finishing as Mars enters Pisces. So that radical action. Now Mars is in the soup too, so to speak. It's in the water. And Mars is a lot more of a fireball in the electric Aquarian landscape. In in Pisces, it's still strongly devotional. These are two real devotional energies, but it's kind of like going on a blind crusade. Wherever Mars has decided to fight or what the enemy is, it's probably charging off against it now in Pisces. There's this sense of, fighting for the underdog, fighting with compassion, not going to take something anymore. It's really charging into the battle, maybe behind the scenes in some extent, but really on behalf of the underdog, and also unfortunately not always the clearest aim or not always the most stamina. The water is not the best place for the stamina, but it does give Mars a sense of like devotion for those that need it. And just look how full by this point the party, like this year, like it's almost like we're having a tour. Like each sign season is getting a stellium. We have Mars, North Node, Sun, Mercury, and Venus all in Pisces this land that are going to be milking the themes that we've gone over in this presentation. All the Pisces energies have a lot of ambassadors. At this point in the story, Sun is also trine Jupiter with the retrograde Mercury. Mercury's now moving back, so it's kind of kiss that sweet spot with Venus, and now it's reviewing. Probably gonna shine a little bit of a light on some of that review soon as the Sun meets it. But there's still a sense, even while we're moving back or reviewing or looking at the past and reflecting, of doing it with a purpose and a spirit of growth and moving forward. It's what Jupiter is providing at the table as they're talking. So it's that sense of optimism, a sense of forward growth, What are we building? How are we, eating better, making things safer, etc., as Cancer would say. But the sun is trying this, which is a particularly nice glowing day. I mean, let's think that the fourth and the fifth of March could be a fortuitous, favorable time where things are of an easier nature. Just that's how things sing with the sun and Jupiter. Um, but that sense of letting things go and holding the light in a way that is allowing, receptive, releasing, flowing for that sense of growth. At the same time, Venus is finishing up in Pisces, which means she's approaching Neptune and Saturn. And so she's kind of finishing this little glow of unconditional love and holding the space of transcendental value. She's getting ready to go off into a new sense of a fiery nature as she kisses the Neptune ambassador of Pisces on her way in that new door. But there's everything is getting ready to, in a sense, baptize itself across Neptune and Saturn and the 0 point of Aries, which is giving it a sense of a new life. It is like I mean, there's been, I mean, when everything crossed over Pluto and Aquarius is a sense of rebirth. That's a sense of a rebirth back then, as far as, collaborative purpose. Now is a sense of personal ambition and devotion. So as Venus approaches Neptune and Saturn at that time, we might be getting more dreamy and serious about how to take practical action, about charging off in a new direction based on what we love and what we want to hold compassionate space for, as all of these energies are still churning through Pisces. The next week, March 11th, getting to the middle of March, Mars is on that north node, saying that that point of releasing, where it's taking action, did the hard work and the action and the fierceness of how to how to let go, how to hold space, how to release, is favored. The north node is again that point of destiny, point of growth. In general, it's talking about this releasing process of Pisces, this letting go, this surrender, this dissolving of boundaries. And Mars there is giving a little bit of time and accentuation to actively doing those passive releasing qualities, taking action to it's like building the time and space and container to get a massage or relax or sleep more or these practices that are Piscean. The retrograde Mercury is now trine Jupiter, which has kind of been staying in that zone. So again, our thinking, while maybe, a little more abstract in this space and reviewing, reflecting in retrograde, is growth conscious, growth minded, in tune with that Jupiter quality. And the Mars and Sun are also in orb to Mercury. So there's a lot that's favoring our thinking, even if our thinking is not analytical and logical at this point. The thinking might be very abstract, poetic, musical, whimsical, all of these qualities, but the spotlight is on it, giving it a lot of focus, and that sense of activity and burning desire, and the fact that we want to employ our mind in some endeavors by being virtue of so close to Mars. At this point, too, Venus is now in Aries, and just over that week, she's crossed over both Neptune and Saturn. So over that week, in the first part of March to the mid, Venus is going to have dipped in a sense of um, that fantasy and romance of Neptune, and maybe that sense of, practicality and endurance with Saturn. We might be getting a taste of what our ideal love nature might be like, or our ideal love, or that thing that we'd really, the dream when it comes to money, a taste of the dream, and then maybe just as quickly a taste of the cold, hard reality. You're not there, or, that dream it's not for you. You've just gotten to see it when Venus touches Neptune, and they're so close together. So the story is you see the dream, the mirage, all that first of what you value, what you desire, where you want to go. And then Saturn meets you with the cold hard fall on your face that that's not where you're at. And it gives you the ambition, though, of that's what you want to achieve. And so it sets off Venus on this quest up the mountaintop. You're not to the top, but it is like a seed being planted of whatever your values are related to your identity and how you want to be seen and what you want to attract through your actions. It's giving us a sense of how we want to partner with life and our experience. Into week 5, retrograde Mercury is conjunct North Node. Uh, I feel like this Pisces period is a lot about like just thinking again, starting with an eclipse that's happening in a couple of days. I feel like there could be some kind of revelation, something that is new, shocking, surprising, aha, some information that's revealed via the sun that then at first again makes us all feel dreamy to go forward, and it's like it seems like it all kind of makes sense or something. But it's like a dream. It's like waking up from a dream and you're still kind of in it, but then something over this time period is like, wait, what? And that a lot of this month is the review. And yes, we're trying to review it from an emotional place that's not thinking the most logically clear. Um, but there's a lot of focus on the thinking. There's a lot of focus on Mercury this month and all the planets Mercury's crossed. Like everything has gone back and forth. Mercury's on and off of everything through Pisces. And it touching the North Node here at this point is accentuating the destiny and the purpose and the poignancy of Mercury's involvement. Mercury is taking us to the place that we need by thinking about and letting go and reflecting and reviewing and engaging these processes right now. It's all of the reflecting, reviewing, backtracking, um, and thinking about things outside the box. Oh my God, that's important. I think that a lot of this thinking, it could be that words are symbols. There's code words. There's an abstract, musical, poetic code word quality to the review that is necessary in this soupy mix, that is in part of the planning, the growth, the moving forward. Mars is trining Jupiter closer now. So Mars is about to get a whole lot of yes, yes opportunity factor coming from Jupiter, empowering it in this zone. Um, and then Sun is now at the end of its journey. We have another new moon that is happening around this time in Pisces. But as the Sun is getting to the end, it's starting to close up with Neptune on that cusp. It's also getting sextile with Uranus and Pluto. And again, this is a new moon time zone. All of this, it's getting ready to change signs, and this is important because this is spring. And when it changes signs, it's going into Aries. So right now, the sun has got this nice sextile happening with Uranus, which it's ready for new things. And there's a sense of deep things, the deep hidden side of things, and the surprising, shocking side of things, all ringing together as it's ready to go out of this nebulous zone into something that is new, a new fresh start that's bold, fierce, energetic. It does have to pass over Neptune, which is, another splash of ideal or seeing things with rose-colored glasses. But spring is getting ready to be sprung this year, especially. And we see Venus is square Jupiter. Venus square Jupiter, I always think the tagline I see in some reports is bad for diets. And it's just because it's about extravagance and excessiveness and good, taste. It's spending a lot of money, eating a lot of sweets, that vibe. So there's this idea maybe of like having a large time. It could be big social engagements, big expenditures, big trips, big activities. But there's a lot of big social energy that's gearing up. Like spring is getting sprung, which is kind of how I wrap this up for The last moment of Pisces we see here, the sun sits at 29:59 on March 20th. That same day by 11 a.m., he will have gone into Aries and we start spring. Nothing is different in the chart other than the moon moving. Um, and I'm not clocking the moon in every step because it moves so fast. So we still got basically the same configuration, gearing up to start the real new year, the fire horse year, the sun in a fire sign. All this is with Mars, the planet of Aries, tuned into Jupiter, saying yes, 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 go, go, go. Um, all of the stuff that was emotionally, sympathetically resonant from our Pisces season that's happening, all of the review that's going on, the review should be finishing quite soon in the Aries season. The review is going to end and things are all moving forward. The energy to do new stuff is probably going to pull us into new stuff faster than we know what to think about it. But the thinking will clarify in time. But there's spring is going to be a time for new activity, going new places, a new sense of self. Um, and I feel like those themes are going to be collectively active, a lot louder this year. Just the new governing structures, new political landscapes, new senses of identity overall. So, with that, that is a full taste around the wheel at the round table of who and what Pisces is and how it sits with everybody else. So, I would love to invite if there are any questions or comments about anything from the presentation, or if anybody just has any kind of astrological questions that they came in with today. It can be about anything. Here for whatever. So, has anybody got anything they'd like to inquire into?
So, when I think of Pisces, I think of the Jesus thing with the
Uh-huh.
martyrdom,
Yep.
resurrection, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
There.
and I was going to ask in regards to my own chart, I think I have Pisces, Chiron and Pisces in my 12th house.
Okay.
Retrograde, I do believe. So, in Pisces season, would that be extra activated?
It's gonna get activated when those planets in Pisces cross over Chiron. That's gonna be whenever you might be more sensitive to that element, which for you could be symbolic of moments that reflect wounds from your life and moments that reflect healing in your life. It's both. Um, Chiron in that spot, Chiron is a wound, the wounded healer, and it's all these things. It's the ways we feel wounded and the ways that we heal and all these things. And for you, it's almost like in some respects, it's that relationship with God and it's feeling wounded or abandoned by the universe and God in some way. Like the existential confusion and uncertainty of the universe is like why have these bad things happened? And it's just like those existential questions of sorrow and suffering that we might be more close up with. But it's also that miracle magic of like those healing moments where like something's happened at the right moment and the right time that we just cannot explain other than the magic of the universe. And so it's both of those kind of things of feeling like really profoundly slighted by the universal synchronicities and abstractions that have seemed to work counter or sabotaging our favor, and the things that have been there like right on time when we've needed the next platform to step into. So it's both of those things is what Chiron is going to do. And it allows you to be a healing influence for others in that same oceanic way of like um having faith that you're going to be able to heal other people's faith in the majesty of a mysterious universe. Whereas there can also be ways in which a belief or a faith in the magic of the universe can seem deceptive and disillusioning are not real at the same time. So it's all of that package. Um, you also, the first thing you mentioned just made me want to oh yeah, the martyrdom, the Christ. I was just talking with someone and I said I was going to mention it on this. I'm glad I can to get it recorded. There's a TV show on Netflix that I highly recommend. I wish it had more than 2 seasons, but it doesn't. It's called The OA. And I have told lots of people it is the most Piscean show I have seen because it checks all the boxes for these Piscean themes. There are ties to this that involve adoption, like literally all of them, miracle healings, music, the profoundness of music, psychic phenomenon, near-death experiences,
Drowning.
dream, drowning, the ocean, um, like multiple
The
dimensions,
abandonment with by the father.
all of it. I'm not even kidding. It's like totally written on this template, every single one of them. Seclusion, isolation, um, just all of them. So it's a really great Piscean show. Um, And I mean, she's got this, Jesus Christ martyr sense too. She gets, I don't want to spoil it and all, but and the angelic qualities, like all of those themes, how'd they get all of them in there? And why do they all fit together so well? They do. Pisces is a really fun zone to see that all. Um, any other questions or anything else from anyone else
Yeah,
or
my parents are both Pisces, so yeah, I resonated with.
interesting?
Said it was
I
the idealism, and like they're both pretty idealistic, I'd say, and like this kind of struggles with communication in some ways. So
Very cool. So that's so funny. I just talked to someone else where their 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 child and their child's partner are both Pisces. So that Piscean couple. I would I so y- I just happen to know about you, Tom. You're not a Pisces, and your moon sign in Pisces. So you will see your parents through the lens of your sun and moon, even though they are both Pisces, as you said. I would challenge you to think and like dive in or ask them or think about for them the way in which how would your dad say that his father was missing or absent? And then think of the same thing for your mother, and it might not be the same answer. It probably isn't. It'd be weirder if it was, but like the usual suspects can be, and I don't know any of them, so I list them all, but like that they were they adopted? Was their father gone all the time? Did their father struggle with alcohol? Did they have a debilitating illness? All of those types of things where in some way the father was either absent in some way or on some pedestal. And there's a way that we idealize and long for a solar figure when it's in Pisces. And we also see them in a light sometime where we see them with rose-colored glasses. Um,
yeah, I
but
should
it's
definitely ask that because my father's father died when he was pretty young,
there you
and
go. That
yeah,
happens.
he doesn't talk about him much. So yeah, I should that would be a good thing to ask. And
So
well,
again, yeah.
I
So
was gonna say,
suicide. I mean, I don't think it was a suicide in your case or his case, but like the father dying fairly early is an easy way to say that they're absent. Sometimes it's suicide, sometimes it's overdose. I mean, those are all just they're all themes in this mix, and it's real curious how you can see them. You really can.
well, my mom is at the beginning of Pisces, and my dad's at the very end of Pisces. So like my mom's February 20th, and my dad's March 15th. So
Okay.
how does that change?
Yeah.
Does that
So
matter
okay.
any or?
Yeah. Yeah, so they're both going to understand, and they are Pisces. But if you understand how a chart progresses, when you look at a progress chart, if I wanted to see how someone was at the age of 15, for example, I would be looking at a chart that would reflect where the planets were 15 days after they were born And that chart's going to show how they've echoed over 15 years. In your parents' case, when they were 15, probably hadn't met, your mom would have progressed. If she was at the beginning, she'd be around the middle of Pisces then, still a Pisces. However, if your dad was at the end of Pisces, very early on in his life, he progressed into Aries. And so by 15, he would assuredly be there. So he's ahead, he's moving into the next sign quicker, and he's going to express more of the next sign more prominently and faster. So your dad would have probably assumed more, and it's classical for the sexes in this case, is the man, that more of the manly, masculine, Aries, independent, assertive qualities. Even if they're both Pisces, I would expect them to be fairly sensitive, receptive, all of these, all those qualities in the mix, maybe a little quieter, used to things behind the scene. But at some point, whenever it progressed into Aries, your father would have probably become more decisive or more initiating, or decided that he was going to take some kind of big action or do something or that kind of thing. And so he's just closer to that vibe in a sense. He's got more of the Aries incoming than your mother would. Your mother, by being at the beginning, she's going to remember more of the Aquarius stuff, that since she is Pisces earlier in life would have her more accustomed to just being present at the table, being a participating contributor, being on the board, being part of the group, but it's like being a part of the collective is what Aquarius represents. But she would be used to having a more Zen receptive kind of like letting things go, not really, not rocking the boat, so to speak, would be more Pisces. And all of these things I'm saying about your parents, these characters, is just based on the sign. If like for example, if your mom happens to have like Venus, Mars, and Jupiter all in Leo, well then yeah, she's probably a little bit louder of a firecracker in general. But just by virtue of how they differ in their personality structure by virtue of the sun apparatus, your father's going to be a Pisces that's leaning more into taking action and taking charge, while your mom is going to be, more getting her feet wet with the true Pisces archetype. She's starting the Pisces journey, so she's going to be a more immature Pisces, while your dad is a mature Pisces. He's finishing that up and getting ready to step into the next segment. So it'd be thinking about your parents, you'd really explore a lot of the segment I did in this with the neighbors, thinking about how Pisces is wedged between Aquarius and Aries, and how your mother then is going to be more familiar with the Aquarius, and your father's more getting accustomed to the Aries.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Love it, man. I love thinking about all these things. So every month when I do these presentations, just a reminder for people that, when you come live, the whole purpose is community involvement, community questions. I'm actually developing something I want to do more with the in-person groups too, as a community quest. But I love just, having a community of people to ask and answer questions. And the stellar realm is somewhere that I like to fly my kite. So if there are ever questions people have about this besides getting one-on-one sessions with me, this is a monthly opportunity to, save your questions up and bring them to the table. They don't have to just be about Pisces or whatever sign it is. I'm happy to answer any questions that get metaphysical, archetypal, astrological. So, either of you guys have anything else that you'd like me to dive into before we wrap up? If not, I will call this a wrap and stop our recording so that, oops, a second. All right. So that's a wrap, everybody. If anybody watches this and you got questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Give me something to talk about, and I'll ramble that way. Have a good rest of whenever for everybody out there. Later.